Welcome to Crushcast, a podcast dedicated to all things God tier. I am your host, Monkey Games. Today is the 26th of March, 2019, and on this podcast I will present an overview of God tier, the backstory, gameplay basics, and a touch on the development. God Tier Overview. God Tier is a tabletop miniatures turn-based skirmish game. What is a skirmish tabletop game? Wikipedia tells us the following, quote, "A man-to-man war game, also known as a skirmish war game, is a war game in which units generally represent single individuals or weapon systems and are rated not only on weaponry, but may also be rated on such facets as morale, perception, skill at arms, etc. The game is designed so that a knowledge of military tactics, especially at the small unit or squad level, will facilitate successful gameplay. Man-to-man war games offer an extreme challenge to the designer, as few variables or characteristics inherent in the units being simulated are directly quantifiable." End quote. God Tier is a one-player versus one-player game where each player controls 3 champions and their followers. To understand the goal of the game, which is winning, I will introduce this backstory. In a world not of our own, gods ruled the heavens. There were many different types of gods with different abilities and strengths. The gods never truly got along. Their existence of millions of years cohabitating the heavens eventually led to all-out war. After countless years of battle, all of the gods lost their energy, no longer able to stay conscious, and descended on a single planet. It was known as the Fall of the Gods, which incited chaos to all living beings on the planet below. The gods' essence were implanted into the grounds all over the planet, killing all living things that it touched. But over time, new cognizant species were born of many different physical, mental, and spiritual characteristics. Millenniums have passed. Champions emerged from the many different races inhabiting the planet, each attuned to the power of the gods. These champions' sole goal in life was to claim the ground where the gods' essence remained in order to fuse with the old gods and become new gods. These places on the ground won't be claimed without a fight, and are now infamously known as the God Tier. Champions do not need to go it alone. Followers are lessers compared to champions, but dedicated their lives to assisting their chosen champions in the hopes of themselves becoming more powerful, and once their champion claims their God Tiers. Champions also party up to help each other, leveraging each unique abilities and traits. This is the story of God Tier. Are you ready to begin the fight to become a god? Game overview continued. Now that you know the story, I can continue describing the game overview. Skirmishes take place on a 14 wide by 12 long hexagonal grid. Players are on each side of the wide area, which means there are 12 hexes between the players' starting positions. There is a battle ladder with 20 rungs that is split down the middle to indicate the player's side of the ladder. Each player has 10 rungs on the ladder. The ladder is used for scoring a round, so at the end of a round, whichever player has a scoring token on their side of the ladder gets the scoring token. There is a maximum of 5 rounds. Each round is worth a different number of points. I'll go through them right now. Round 1 is worth 1 point. Round 2 is worth 2 points. Round 3 is worth 3 points. Round 4 is only worth 2 points. And finally, round 5 is worth just 1 single point. The first player to reach 5 points wins the match. You might be wondering, how do you move the scoring token during a match? There are several ways, which are listed. Conquering a champion, which is knocking him out, gives you 4 steps on the ladder. Culling, also a knockout, a small base follower, which is 1 step. Culling, a large base follower, 2 steps. Claiming a banner, which is placing a banner, 1 step on the ladder. Capturing a banner, which is having the banner on an objective hex at the end of the round, 4 steps. An objective hex is also known as the God tier. Champions are the only units that are allowed on God tiers. Banners can only be placed on God tiers. Setup. The setup of the game is very quick and easy. The first decision is to pick a scenario. I made some handy scenario cards, so it could be a matter of randomly shuffling or drawing the top one. Or you can make a mini drafting game out of it, which is what I am preferring at the moment. There are 6 scenarios in total as the public beta version 1.4.1 of the game. Maybe there will be more down the line, but 6 is still a pretty good count to keep the game fresh and each match unique. After choosing the scenario, place the God tier objective tokens and decide on the starting player. I usually roll a dice for this. The first player places a champion and their followers in their starting area. The second player places a champion and their followers in the starting area. This back and forth placement proceeds until all units have been deployed. Note, a unit is considered either a single champion or all of the followers from a single champion. The first turn now begins. Turns. A turn consists of 2 phases, the plot phase and the clash phase. Champions and follower units all have a single card that is double-sided. One side has a unit's stats and abilities for the plot phase, and the other side has a unit's stats and abilities for the clash phase. The plot phase can be considered to be the phase where you position your units and to also claim banners. It's used to apply boons and blights. The clash phase is all about fighting. Most champions and followers all have attacks in this phase. During a phase, each unit can perform up to 2 actions. The default actions are: advance, move the unit a set number of hexes based on the advance stat; call banner, plants a banner on an objective hex and only during the plot phase; rally, recovers a champion after being knocked out; recruit, adds 1 previously knocked out follower back on the board. It must be adjacent to the champion. Each unit has skills that are also actions. Skills have a bit of complexity to them, but once you learn the terminology, it's fairly easy. Each skills has a type associated. The types are: self. The target can only be the unit who is activating the skill. FR. The target must be a friendly unit, which can be the unit activating the skill. EN. The target must be an enemy unit. Spec. Does not target any models. It affects models and hexes within a range. Skills can also have the following attributes: range, the number of hexes required to activate the skill; accuracy, the number of accuracy dice to use when determining if this skill hits a unit. Damage, the number of damage dice to use when determining the amount of damage to apply to a unit. Followers also have additional attributes for range, accuracy, and damage. In general, if more followers are in a hex, the more accuracy and damage dice the skill gets. Note: the maximum number of small bases in a single hex is 3. The maximum number of large bases in a single hex is only 1. The last type of action is Invoke Ultimate. Only champions have ultimates. Ultimates can only be used a single time in the entire game. However, most ultimates can be used in either plot or clash phases. Invoking Ultimate costs 1 action and is treated like a skill. Ultimates are very powerful skills though, so be very careful when you decide to use an ultimate, because you can only use it 1 time, so try not to waste it. Combat. So when we finally get to the point in the show that you all have been waiting for, combat! Who doesn't like smashing dice, right? I really enjoy combat in God Tier. It's way more satisfying than other popular miniature games that I have played, especially ones that have both offensive and defensive dice. I'm not going to name names on this show. Anyways, God Tier has only a single type of dice. This wasn't always the case, but I'm glad it was changed. The attacker is in control of the dice, which really simplifies the combat. It makes the attacker feel a bit more powerful. We have already gone through the skills attributes, which dictates the amount of accuracy and damage dice to throw. So now we need to go through how hits and damage are determined. Each unit has the following stats. Dodge, the value of accuracy dice to meet or beat, which determines if a unit was hit or not. Protection, the amount of damage blocked or absorbed by the defender. And finally, life, the number of hits the unit can sustain before being knocked out. Example. In this example, Lorsan, a bow-wielding elf champion, is using her snipe ability in the clash phase. Snipe has the EN target requirement. It has 3 range, 8 accuracy, and 4 damage. Her target is a dwarf named Rhodey Ironheart, who has 2 dodge, 4 protection, and 7 health. A dice is 6-sided with the following: 2 sides that are blank, 3 sides that are value of 1, and 1 side that is a value of 2. Lorsan rolls 8 accuracy dice. She rolls 4 dice with a value of 1, 1 dice a value of 2, and 3 blanks. Her total accuracy value is 6. Compare the accuracy dice total 6 with Rhodey's dodge, which is 2. She easily hits her target. Next, Lorsan rolls 4 dice for her damage throw. She rolls a single 2, 2 1s, and a single blank. Her total damage is only 4. Rhodey is a well-armored dwarf and has a protection of 4. Subtract the protection from the damage, and Lorsan has done 0 damage. Even though Lorsan has done 0 damage, if Snipe had a hit effect, the hit effect would still be applied. That is the end of the combat example. Boons and Blights. I mentioned before that the plot phase was also a time to apply boons and blights. Boons are attributes boosts, and blights are attribute debuffs. There are boons and blights for every unit stat. The boons are Evade, which gives +1 dodge, Reinforce, +1 protection, Quicken, +1 speed, Concentrate, +1 accuracy dice, And finally, Strengthen, +1 damage dice. Blights are Stun, -1 dodge, Sunder, -1 protection, Slow, -1 speed, Distract, -1 accuracy dice, and finally Weaken, -1 damage dice. Same type of boons and blights cannot be stacked. For instance, you could never put 2 evade tokens on a unit. However, boons and blights can cancel each other out. Let's take an example of Lorsan that has a Strengthen boon on her unit. Let's say Rhodey uses his Shield Bash skill and it hits Lorsan. This skill applies a Weaken. Since Lorsan has a Strengthen token, once the Weaken token is placed on her model, both tokens are removed, canceling each other out. That's all there really is to boons and blights. It's a simple system that allows you flexibility in your strategy without overcomplicating things. Hopefully that should give you an understanding of the basics. In future episodes, I'm going to go more in depth in different areas of gameplay. Development. The last segment of the podcast will go over the state of development. God Tier is being developed by Steamforged Games, SFG. SFG is known for its Guild Ball Miniatures tabletop game and also Dark Souls the board game. SFG introduced God Tier to the public in April of 2018 through a Kickstarter campaign. SFG raised over £340,000, which is the UK currency, with over 2,800 backers. God Tier is a new intellectual property from SFG, and the Kickstarter response was very good. As to date, there have been 67 project updates and well over 6,000 comments from backers. The campaign estimated that the product would be shipped starting in April of this year, 2019. However, update number 63 informed backers that shipping will be delayed until August 2019. Delays in Kickstarter campaigns are very common. What is uncommon is companies actually giving refunds. SFG has allowed backers to request refunds, which I find especially consumer friendly. I haven't seen this in any other Kickstarter before. Anyways, the gameplay has been through many revisions during the Kickstarter campaign. SFG first introduced purchasing an alpha kit. This allowed interested backers and players to get models in hand, a map, dice, and tokens to help test out the game throughout development. The models are exclusive and made of metal, so those that purchase these kits have something that is very limited and unique. Player feedback has helped shape the many versions. The latest version is 1.4.1. The retail version most likely won't have too many changes as SFG really has optimized the gameplay experience. SFG is at the stage where they are showing off final versions of the sculpts. They have also showed us really nice graphics on cards and probably the finishing touches. But you don't need to wait until August to play God Tier right now. Version 1.4.1 is available as print and play. The rulebook, cards, and everything else are all available online. My next episode will go into detail on how you can get into the game right now. Until next time.